It is so important to make this available.
Yeah.
Because this information is golden. It will make aging so much more graceful, so much easier. It'll make weight loss so much more natural. And yet, going to my GP, I never hear any of this. I just hear, do you want Ozempic? Hi, everybody. Have you ever dreamt of food freedom? A way that you could eat what you want and still keep a sustained weight loss? And guess what? I met the perfect nutritionist for me and you and all of us. Amy White, holistic nutritionist. She's going to teach us how and all the possibilities too. Well, hi, everybody. This is Diane Gilman, formerly Queen of Jeans on QVC HSN, but now the proud host of Too Young to Be Old Forever. And speaking of part of our youth, we probably spent being our skinniest. Probably doesn't feel that way now. Guess what? We've got holistic nutritionist Amy White, who is going to lead us to food freedom for sustained and healthful weight loss. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Recently I turned 79, so I'm preparing for the big 80. And I thought to myself, all your life, you're told to your age, don't be a baby. Don't be a rushed adult. Dress your age. Don't dress too old when you're young, and a trickster, don't dress too young when you're old. I started thinking in 79 about eat your age. And people around me who are 80, 85 and eating super processed foods and not thinking it's worth it at their age to buy good food. You are a holistic nutritionist. And I know it is all about mindful eating. And I also know the mentality of America is about weight loss that's permanent, transformational, but not necessarily putting in a lot of effort. Talk to us about weight loss, and then I really want to talk about the mystery of insulin resistance, because I've got the ultimate body shape for insulin resistance, and I hate it.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it all ties together. So I think it's interesting. Women over 40, over 50, 60, 70, 80, men too. The thing that's important to recognize when it comes to body balance, it's not yes, if you have extra weight and extra fat, you want to lose it. But ultimately what we're trying to get to is that place where then we're maintaining comfortably.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So yeah, we want to lose the weight, but it's not ongoing weight loss forever. It's like, let's just get there and then maintain in a comfortable way that fits into our lifestyle and that includes foods we enjoy eating. And so the bigger thing to think about as we hit that second part of life, it's not the deficit that we're trying to create with calories is less important than the macro redistribution, meaning which foods we're eating most of the time, some of the time, and rarely. That's the macro redistribution. So as a young person, there's a lot of pizza and chips and bagels and pizza rolls and ice cream and all the things. There's some salads in there.
And do you call all of that super processed foods or just carbo overload?
Well, it depends. You can make your own pizzas. You can do all that. It's just going to be a heavier load when it comes to sugars and carbohydrates.
Okay.
And there's a lot of research showing that, especially for women after 40, we do not process sugar and carbohydrates the way that we used to. So we can continue to tell ourselves, oh, I can eat this. I can eat carbs and sugars. It's not a problem. I've always had it. And this is all hooey, but there is actual research showing that it messes our blood sugar up and it raises our insulin and it throws our bodies out of balance.
And to me too, if somebody had just explained to me when I turned 40 that everything I ate that was basically a wheat-based carb, like pasta,
Mm.
like the pizza crust, like big slices of bread. Potatoes are manufacturing sugar the minute they hit your mouth and saliva. So you need to start thinking about all that white food
Yeah.
as sugar. It would have made a big difference to me.
I always tell people when you look at a big bowl of rice, you're like, oh, I have this rice. And I'm like, your body's looking at that rice going, oh, look, a big bowl of sugar.
Yay, sugar!
Yeah. So again, that redistribution of those macronutrients means, okay, so the carbs and the sugary foods, regardless of whether they're ultra processed or, homemade or whatever you want to do. Obviously, there's always a hierarchy of choices, and ultra processed is the bottom of the barrel. You want to go
But
there the
also
least
the easiest
and the most
to
convenient.
acquire. Yeah,
Yes.
and the cheapest. So
And we live in a convenient world.
there you go.
So you have to go, okay, because the whole idea of food freedom is I want people to be able to eat everything that they want to eat, but in a way that's going to work for their body. So now thinking about, well, I really love pizza. It's like, okay, well, first of all, how does pizza make you feel? Second of all, how often can you eat pizza and stay in balance? So I guess before we get to the whole idea of understanding what to eat and how much to eat, you have to understand balance. Yeah. So you may have heard the term the blood sugar roller coaster.
No, but I think I understand
Okay.
it from how much white food I have eaten in my
Well, it's
lifetime.
actually it's biochemical chaos is what it is. And it is because of the diet that we as Americans eat. And so what happens is our body gets thrown out of balance. So our metabolic hormones our blood sugar's too high, it's spiking and it's crashing as opposed to doing this, which is what it should do. And because of that, then our insulin overreacts and it goes way too high. And then that causes our blood. So then it creates this roller coaster of blood sugar throughout the day. But when our blood sugar is doing that, our insulin is also out of balance. And when our insulin is out of balance, it blocks our body from being able to use stored body fat as fuel. So now our insulin's up, we're on this blood sugar roller coaster, and our body, as far as it knows, the only thing it can use for fuel is sugar. It doesn't even know we have stored body fat.
Whoa.
So what's happening is you get up and have a fruit smoothie for breakfast and grab a bagel and I feel good. But then an hour and a half later, 2 hour, you start coming down. 2 hours later, you're just thinking, well, don't talk to me. I just have to get a snack and then I can focus, because you all of a sudden crashed because your blood sugar went so high and then it came down. And again, your body's like, we're going to die. There's no fuel. So if you don't go and get something, and you're going to have this parade of ideas go through your brain, and it's all going to be that fast hitting food that or your brain knows jacks you up. So it's like Cheetos, M&Ms, jelly beans, potato chips, a big sugary Starbucks. That's what your brain's saying. It's like, let's get that. Let's get that. And you're like, yeah, that's what I need. That'll help. And so there you go. And you're back up. And then you come crashing down. And it just goes like this all day. And you wonder, why am I not losing weight? I can't, your energy, you have that huge crash in the afternoon. Yeah, that's the blood sugar roller coaster. And the problem is you end the day and you go to bed, your blood sugar's still doing this. So now you're waking up at night, you're tossing, you're turning, you're getting this really restless sleep. So it's just totally throwing you out of balance. So the first thing you need to do or want to do is get off the roller coaster. So you want to bring those metabolic hormones back into balance. And you have to understand that sugar is the biggest reason you're on the roller coaster. So you do have to make an effort to go, okay, I'm going to calm that sugar, my requirement for sugar down. And in order to do that, you have to start understanding where the sugars are coming from. Because so many people I work with come to me because they eat healthy, but they don't understand why they are gaining or can't lose weight. They don't feel good.
Yeah, totally.
But they're eating granola bars, or they're eating this really yummy, really high quality granola for breakfast, and they're having fruit smoothies, and then they're snacking on rice cakes with, as you go through the day, you're kind of like, okay. So there's a lot of sugars that they don't even recognize as sugar.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then another thing that's really fascinating to me, and it is absolutely the American mentality, which is I would really appreciate something for nothing. So I don't want to put any effort
Right.
into losing weight. I just want to get a shot in my abdomen
Oh,
and like Ozempic
yeah.
and not eat for a few weeks because I feel a little nauseated, not bad. And then I'll lose weight and that'll be so great. And so I have a friend whose basic habit for being constantly on a yo-yo is wakes up at about 1 a.m. starving
Mm.
and goes and makes a meal.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a hot dog and a bun, but usually not something real great or nutritional. And then takes an antacid and then sleeps like a baby and then has 2 meals during the day, a breakfast, lunch, and a dinner. So you're eating at 8 a.m. You're eating at, let's say, 4 p.m., and you're eating again at midnight. And their solution for him was putting him on Ozempic. And I said, yeah, but don't they give you any guidance? I think you should have to obligatory take classes during Ozempic about how to come out of Ozempic and eat correctly. And he said, no, they said nothing to me.
Yeah.
Nothing. So how is it going to be? Can you stay on Ozempic your entire life? Just keep going on and off of it?
You know what? I am not well versed in the impact of the GLP-1 drugs long term, how it's going to work. I don't prescribe
Probably
them.
no
I
one
don't know.
is.
I don't know the answer to that question. That's a good question though, right? Is that the expectation that it's, I mean, I think that's the expectation is it's a long-term, lifelong
Yeah,
prescription.
there you don't put any real effort or learning into it. So what you're doing with food freedom
Yeah. I
is
like to
saying
eat.
it's guided,
Yeah.
it's knowledge driven, and that knowledge should, if you're a woman, take you from perimenopause through the rest of your life,
Mhm.
identifying what your food habits are and how to improve them.
So, right. So our body's always changing. And so one of the important things when I say you come off that blood sugar roller coaster is you are able to reconnect with your body because you can start to feel what good feels like again. You remember,
Okay.
you're like, oh, this is what good feels like. And so once you create that balance, then you can start to expand your food diversity because you can start to include things, bring things back in. So I'm going to ask you to bring your blood sugar and insulin and metabolic hormones into balance. I have taken people who are pre-diabetic, 12 weeks, they go back to their doctor, their labs are perfect. They're like,
How?
hey, you're not
How?
pre-diabetic. This is exactly. So I start with what I call sort of this phase 1, which is my metabolic reset phase. So I'm going to ask you to let's remove those sort of known inflammatory foods, one of which, this is the one that scares people the most, is grains. I
Yeah.
want you to take all the grains out. No pasta, no bread, no rice. And now people get scared because they think, well, no cereal. What am I supposed to eat? But that's what I do. I'm like, well, no, you're not going to have any trouble with what to eat. I'm going to give you all kinds of recipes, meal plans, food ideas. You're going to have so much to eat. And what I find is the food that I encourage them to eat is so delicious that the whole family then starts eating their food. They're like, my leftovers are gone.
But what do you replace
Okay.
grains with?
So this is where we go that macro redistribution, right? So we've taken the carbs and we're reducing them. So I'm going to want you to eat a lot of non-starchy vegetables. So lots of salads and crunchy vegetables. You can roast vegetables. You can steam them, whatever you want to do. These are your non-starchies. These are the ones that grow above ground. Green beans. The only one is corn. Corn grows above ground. We're not going to eat corn right now. So not a starchy vegetable. So a starchy vegetable is potatoes, carrots, corn.
Potatoes, carrots are starchy?
Yeah, carrots are starchy. But now
There's probably a lot of sugar in them, right? That's why they're sweet.
But if you want to shred some carrot on a salad, that's not a problem. You can do that. But for instance, if you roast, like we roast carrots in our house, and we can roast like 2 pounds of carrots and they will be gone by the end of dinner because it's like candy. It's like dessert.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, so you start to recognize, oh, this is, and then as your blood sugar comes into balance, you do start noticing how sweet real food, like you'll take a bite of a red pepper and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was so sweet. So sweet.
Hey, so if you know me, you know I am a big believer that red light is the future of wellness and beauty. Mito red light is my new absolute favorite. It's like giving your cells a power boost. It's incredible. So red light therapy helps support energy, skin health, and even reduces inflammation, all with the simple power of light. Red light, that is. I use mine every day and I can feel the difference. If you want to glow from the inside out, check out Mito Red Light because your cells feel energized and you feel unstoppable. Use my code below on mitoredlight.com for a discount and see why red light therapy is lighting the way to better aging. Mito Red Light. Power your cells, power your life.
So anyway, so we get rid of that. That's bringing our carbs down. Now we're not eating carbohydrates. We're eating a lot of carbohydrates. They're vegetables. Depending on my client, depending on how bad their sugar cravings are, I may have them just step away from the fruit as well for a little while because that'll just keep their sugar cravings alive. So instead, we need to bulk up your calories, but in a different way. So we're going to push more protein. We're going to push some healthy fats because believe it or not, fat calms sugar cravings.
Ooh.
So for example, and this is my example of it, bacon. It's fatty, it's salty. If you're like having a sugar craving and you just can barely stand it, if you have cooked bacon in your refrigerator and you go grab 2 slices, your sugar craving will be gone.
Oh my God. And
Oh
I
no.
love bacon and
Yeah.
I avoid it. But I see,
It's
thank
a
you for
tool.
that. That
It's
could
a
be life
tool.
changing.
Fat is a tool to use. So fat is a tool to use while you're calming sugar cravings. It's one of the tools. But redistribution of macros, we've reduced the carbohydrates, we've increased the protein, and we've increased the fat. And that's sort of phase 1, getting you through. And now I include dairy, so there's cheese involved. One of my favorite recipes that seems to be a favorite with clients is a very high protein lasagna. It's all the same. It's got cheese, it's got sauce, it's got it all. But you just use very thinly sliced deli meats as the noodle layers.
Ooh.
So turkey or chicken or whatever you like. Sometimes I
Now,
use ham.
I notice also that there are a lot of nutritionist chefs using cottage cheese
Oh
in
God, yeah.
things like
Love it.
lasagna. I don't know if I get that or
I
not.
love cottage cheese. My husband hates it. So I'm careful about what I would put. I use cottage cheese for my things, but I definitely would use yogurt for his. He doesn't like cottage cheese. I'm not going to trick
But
him
do
and
you
be like,
think that's a good substitute for solid cheese? If people don't
oh,
want to
I
eat
don't
solid cheese.
know. No, I don't. I wouldn't use it in place of like a hard cheese, like an aged cheese at
Yeah,
all. No.
it
So
confuses me.
yeah, no, I use it if I'm boosting like a tomato bisque soup. I might whip some cottage cheese and whip it in there so it's like a creamy bisque, but the cottage cheese just added a little bit of protein. So it's a way to kind of boost some protein. You can mix it into scrambled eggs. There's different ways to do it. So if you put it in chunky, sometimes that's not going to work for people. So you can
Yeah,
whip the cottage cheese so it's almost like a ricotta, and
yes.
then you can blend it into things and it's,
And
but
is
it's
that better for diet, better for insulin, better for everything than using actual ricotta?
early. I'll use ricotta, but I'll use a low fat ricotta. So the thing with dairy that's really interesting is you always hear everybody talking about don't buy anything that says sugar free or low fat or don't buy anything that's low fat because then they add sugar to it.
Oh,
The thing, like salad dressings and, all kinds of condiments, they're always going to, that's what everybody always said. No, don't buy sugar free or low sugar or fat free or no fat because they're going to add sugar. The thing is with dairy, that's not the case. You can buy low fat and fat free dairy and there's no sugar added. You're increasing the protein and nutrient density of the food without the extra caloric load. You're taking those calories out from the fat, which is another piece of the puzzle, but I don't get to that until phase 2 with my clients.
because I'm just wondering, as we go through menopause, so many things happen to you that you used to just take for granted. One of them is osteoporosis. So for perimenopausal, postmenopausal women, and I've been told I'm lactose intolerant, but shouldn't calcium be a big part of my diet?
Well, there's a lot of vegetables that are high in calcium.
Like what?
Oh yeah, I know. So now I knew you were going to ask me that, and off the top of my head, I'm like, oh, I need my list. So I would have to look at my list just because I don't want to just throw some out there. I really like the ones that are top of the list, and I'm not top of brain. I'm not thinking about what they are, but there's a lot of vegetables. So there's a lot of ways to get calcium in your diet.
Oh,
That's not
fantastic.
milk. Yeah. But aged cheese is a good source as well. And you can also look for any kind of a lactose free option. That's another thing that can be helpful. But there's calcium doesn't just come from dairy. So there are other sources of calcium. In terms of bone strength and health, again, being able to lift heavy things, so trying to make sure you're doing some weight training is going to be actually really important.
So the one thing that truthfully is the bane of my existence as a postmenopausal woman is that whole lactose intolerant, big beach ball stomach thing. And I find it almost impossible to conquer.
Oh, you mean that you mean insulin resistant?
Yeah.
Yeah, that extra weight we carry in our tummy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What to do with that?
Well, again, it's all the same story. So
Wow.
this is, again, we're trying to rebalance your body. So we're getting out the sugars, which it sounds like that's something you've done. You're very careful about your sugar intake.
Pretty careful about it. I have to actually throw everything that's sugar inducing out of the house. And if I'm going to do pasta and everyone's going to wrinkle their nose and go, ugh, I'll do a cauliflower pasta. I'll try and make it wheat free.
I'm going to drop, I am not affiliated with this company, but I'm totally dropping this right now. So it's called Kaizen, Kaizen Foods.
Yeah.
And they make a very high protein, very high fiber, low carbohydrate pasta and rice. Oh no, it's delicious, and it's the most like pasta that I've ever found that has the right mouthfeel and consistency. They have a whole bunch of different shapes. They also make a rice, so I make a mushroom risotto with their rice. So
really?
good. Oh yeah. And so that's like an example of a recipe that I share with my clients, right? But the pasta, so we often will do spaghetti and meatballs once a week.
Favorite.
Right? So we'll use the Kaizen pasta, and then we'll make our grain-free meatballs with the sauce and the whole bit. And then you have this really decadent, luxurious pasta bowl.
Yeah.
So there's 20 grams of protein in a serving, and there's 15 grams of fiber. So be careful.
It is so important to make this available.
Yeah.
Because this information, I'm saying it to the audience, is golden. It will make aging so much more graceful, so much easier. It'll make weight loss so much more natural. And yet, going to my GP, I never hear any of this. I just hear, do you want Ozempic? You're never going to get your cholesterol down. I want you on statins. And I'm somebody who would love to sail into my 80s, not taking any extraneous drugs, and allowing my body to go on being an active problem solver.
Right. So supporting the needs of your changing body is
totally.
That's what we're going for. So we don't want to just get better now. We want to go, well, what's making me better now? I want it to be able to make me better as I progress. So understanding that idea of body balance. So getting back to what feels, so you can understand, okay, the gas, the bloating's gone. Oh, my reflux is gone. I actually am feeling well. Those, and whatever those offensive foods were, I'm not eating those right now. And that's what my phase 1 is all about. So you get back to what feels good. And then we start going, okay, now we're going to talk about reintroducing things. So you tell me, you be your own nutritionist, and you tell me, did that make you feel better or worse? How did that food impact you? And this is when we start to break down what are going to be your most of the time foods. And those are going to be the ones that just always make you better. When you eat those, everything's going to be fine. Then there are going to be go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll come in after.
Then there are going to be the sometimes foods. And these are the ones that can be neutral, meaning they don't make you better, they don't make you worse. However, dose and frequency is so important. So as soon as you eat it too often or you eat too much of it, it does push you worse. So this would be whole grains, for example. Those could be a sometimes food. You can figure out, well, how often can I have yummy sourdough bread? It's going to be different for you, for me, for my mom, my sister. But what we have to figure out for ourselves is, well, how often can I have sourdough bread and stay in balance? And that's, maybe it's if we go out to breakfast once a week or something, and I get sourdough bread when I go out to breakfast that one time a week, maybe that works for me and keeps me in balance.
When I got this terrible flu, and it could have been COVID too, who knew? I didn't test myself, but I didn't eat for 5 days. I finally dragged myself out of bed for a few hours. I look in the mirror and I say, oh my God, this is the body I was dreaming of, because it's a body with no insulin resistance bloating, because there's no food in my body. How sad is that? And then somebody on my team said, Diane, take this terrible flu as a learning curve. And because you have virtually no appetite, be very mindful of every food you add back in. So actually, I took the whole event as a learning experience about what I wanted, how it reacted in my body. And one of the conclusions I came to, Amy, and I don't know if it's right or not, is I only added carbohydrate back in, like a slice of sourdough bread in the morning, never midday, never for evening, hoping that I burnt off the carbohydrates and was able to use it as morning energy. Does that sound right to you or wrong?
Sometimes sometimes it's very individual. And for some people, it helps if they do it before bed, and it's something that helps them sleep better. A little bit of a carbohydrate, a little bit of fat before bed can really help sleep. Fat, particularly in the morning. One slice of sourdough bread isn't necessarily a problem. Again, everybody's going to be an individual, but you really want to prioritize that protein in the morning, because that's actually going to set you up for a calmer appetite throughout the day. So the more you can prioritize that protein and hit a 30, 40, 50 gram of proteins at breakfast, the more calm your appetite will be and the easier your choices will be throughout the day.
How would you rate as a very healthful way to eat a slice of sourdough bread, an avocado toast, and let's say a soft-boiled egg sliced and put on top? Does that check every box?
Of 1 to 10, 10 being like, oh, that's a killer breakfast, I'd put it at a 2. I know, but there's no protein in that. There's like 6 grams of protein. That's it. And are you ready? You want a bolus, you want at least somewhere between 25 to 30 grams of protein minimum with a meal. And I say minimum because really you want more. Because you want to get at bare minimum 100 grams of protein a day as a woman, but really you need about 125 grams.
Whoa!
Yeah. And so an egg is kind of the perfect food. It's what I call a maintenance food, because it's equal parts protein and fat. It's like that perfect food. So you're only getting about 6 grams of protein with a large egg. So
And,
even
and
3
even
eggs is only
then,
18 grams.
I'm getting tons of judgment from my GP, like, your cholesterol, you can't do anything with your cholesterol if you eat an egg, even once a week. And so I think I want to end this by honestly asking, can we turn to understand as just normal everyday citizens who are going through all these body changes, especially as women, where do we turn to put ourselves together with a really healthful diet? Because you're never going to get it from standardized, what I like to call gold standard Western medicine, which is all about you actually not functioning well and being given drugs to even that out. What if you don't want drugs? What if you want to do it yourself?
So what I always say is find somebody that you like and that aligns with your thinking. So, somebody that they seem reasonable, it's practical, it's sensible. See what they have to say, see if it makes sense to you, and then, reach out to that person, work with that person, but stick with them for like 6 months. Give them more than a week and a half. See how things go, because it takes time for your body to adjust. And then just put your blinders on and stick with your person for, a little while, as long as everything is still feeling like it makes sense to you. And it's like this, that's important. I do the same thing with people that I learn from. Over the years, there have been so many people, and a lot of them they've dropped off because then somewhere along the way they seemed a little kooky, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't seem so science based to me. It seems a little kooky, and so I've really more leaned into my scientists and some people that I trust.
So being informed,
Yeah,
is the best prevention, really. Get
yeah,
interested at being your own best advocate
yeah.
for moving forward.
And then find that one person, those 3 to 5 people that resonate with you, and then try to stay on message with them for a while and see how that goes. And if it starts feeling kooky, then maybe it's time to go, okay, that doesn't, but if it feels sensible and practical, if it makes sense, then kind of stick with them and try to block out the rest of the noise, because it's everywhere.
Oh, it is. One of the reasons why I went to avocado toast is I started to rebuild my feeling of health after this terrible flu COVID thing, was hearing that Mick Jagger can go on stage and dance at 82 years old because he has avocado toast every day. And I thought, well, if it's good enough for Mick, it's definitely good enough for me. But now I see I'm not perhaps pursuing that correctly.
But that's what I mean. That's somebody dropped that as a tidbit, right? That we'd all jump on. But what else is Mick Jagger doing besides having avocado toast?
Thank you.
Right?
I do not know.
Right? Yes. So there's so much more going on that we don't know, but everybody wants us to believe it's definitely the avocado toast.
Hey, that's all I heard, and I thought, I can do that. Well, Amy, this has been a revelation, honestly. And I think that we should all consider eat your age and know how important nutrition is as a role player in how you age. And we'll give you all the graphics on getting in touch with Amy, and your whole philosophy of food freedom for sustained weight loss is just brilliant. Doesn't feel overwhelming, feels attainable. And I thank you so much for sharing it with us.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great, Amy. Thank you so much for listening to Too Young to Be Old podcast. The episode may be over, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Diane Gilman, or visit our website, thedianegilman.com. If you like the show, leave us a rating or a review, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And until then, don't forget, age is just a number. Together, we'll prove that we are all too young to be old.